guys remember when this little weasel right here, he said that all the stuff going on in Portland and Antifa was just a myth? Yeah, let's watch it.
There's violence across the whole country. Do you disavow the violence from Antifa? That's happening in Portland right now? That's
a myth that's being spread only in Washington, D.C.
About Antifa in Portland?
Yes.
Sir, there's videos everywhere online. There's fires and riots. They're throwing fireworks at federal officers. DHS is there. Look online. It gets crazy, Mr. Nadler.
Mr. Nadler, he didn't want to believe because that would have been bad PR for his party. And we've got Colorado Governor Jared Polis dismisses migrant gang takeover of apartments as imagination, despite a video, and the mayor of Aurora, Colorado, confirming the truth. Let's get into it. Here we go. Colorado Governor Jared Polis dismissed anger over the Venezuelan prison gang Tren de Aragua taking over apartment buildings in the Denver suburb of Aurora, calling it imagination. You are merely imagining that. The videos, the police reports, the city's mayor saying it's so, confirming that it's happening. The governor? Yeah. Governor of Colorado. Yeah. Polis press office offered the snarky statement Wednesday night in response to Aurora City Councilwoman Danielle Jurinsky, who we've talked about before, who told the Post the gang's takeovers are tied to his policies. Hey, yeah, we're a self-described sanctuary state, self-described sanctuary city. It's going to be great. It's going to be great for everybody. Just newcomers everywhere, all over. And then when you've got a community of Venezuelans, weird that a Venezuelan prison gang would take over, not one, but two, but maybe three complexes that are basically owned by an out-of-state slumlord. Yeah. Is that shocking to believe has happened? I mean, the whole Antifa thing, Antifa, is Antifa real? No, it's a myth. A myth is lobbing, firebombs into the federal buildings. A myth is doing that. A myth created Chop Chaz over in Seattle. Now, these are real things. It's just inconvenient truths because it doesn't look good when you have entire apartment complexes basically taken over. Does the video that we saw, does that 100% prove that, 3 buildings have been taken over by Tren de Aragua? Not necessarily. I mean, it just doesn't, right? But it also doesn't look good. And then when you add that on top of testimony and the mayor of Aurora, Colorado, coming right out and saying, hey, this is happening, that's when you have to believe, okay, all right. Put all this stuff together, there's a high probability this is actually happening. And the governor is just trying to cover his tracks. Good Lord, that doesn't look good. There's a lot of talk about all these newcomers and the whole Tren de Aragua and the illegals. And yeah. Right? I mean, the governor has already let the mayor know that the state is ready to support the local police department with assistance from state troopers, and the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, if needed. Shelby Weeman, a spokesperson for the Democratic governor, told the Post. But according to police intelligence, this purported invasion is largely a feature of Danielle Jurinsky's imagination. All right, so we've got there's a little bit of discrepancy on, is this actually happening and who's to blame and what's the dealio? This story, you are hearing some wildly disparate versions of the truth, right? Wiernan added that it's illegal to take over buildings in Colorado, and if Jurinsky has knowledge of such activity, the governor's office is ready to assist cops in taking them back. Okay, all right, good luck with that. Enjoy. Yeah, you can have World War III with Tren de Aragua. Because, I mean, these are the one project that I know is like a 96 unit project. And it's got a high occupancy by Venezuelans, just folks trying to, find a roof over their head instead of living on the streets because, Denver basically kicked them out of most of their state-run or city-run newcomer projects and said, we don't have the money to do this anymore, and literally sent representatives to the southern border to tell everybody, don't send anybody else to Denver. We're already full. Denver, pound for pound, has taken as many illegals as any other major big city, probably more. Violent crime dropped in Aurora's between 2022 and 2023, said Wehrman. Despite the governor's claims, however, the evidence is clear. On Wednesday night, Fox Denver and surveillance video that showed an armed gang of men later confirmed, that's the video we watched, an armed gang of men confirmed by cops as suspected members of Tren de Aragua, strolling through an apartment complex in Aurora that residents said has been overrun by the gang. 3 of the men could be seen carrying handguns, while another held a rifle as they entered the troubled apartment complex, breaking into a unit shortly. Didn't look like much of a break-in there. It looks like the door was open, and it looks like they were chasing somebody down, right? The leader dude was on the phone. His guys were out in front, and they were armed. They were armed. There's no imagination there that those individuals were armed. Any which way you look about it, this video it's not a good look. It's just whoever's doing that. Yeah, that's not good. You imagine living in that complex? Oh, yeah, I was going to take out the garbage, but no, maybe later. Is the coast clear? What are we doing here? So before breaking into a unit shortly before a shootout took place at the complex that left one person severely injured. So what we saw was basically the beginnings of a showdown. They were literally tracking somebody throughout this project, and then allegedly they found said individual, and then they both cranked off rounds at each other, and one of them got shot and is severely injured, as sometimes happens when you get hit by a bullet. So that all being said, it's mainly that councilwoman's imagination. Okay. All right. Maybe that was an imaginary bullet that caused an imaginary severe injury. Maybe it was. Further, Aurora Mayor Mike Kaufman told Fox News on Thursday that there are several buildings that have fallen to these Venezuelan gangs in his city. So they're aware and they are identifying the problem. But then what do? You literally want to get into a war with Tren de Aragua? I mean, I don't. Leave that for National Guard or whatever, right? But you can't just let them go. You just can't. Oh, yeah, guys, come on in. It's all good. Yeah, Aurora, Colorado. It's your new home. So Kaufman said that he believes the buildings were used as taxpayer-funded migrant housing, which is what gave the gangs a foothold. They probably were. It was my understanding they were just basically low-income housing, and then they lost their manager after the manager got worked up about all the gang members being there and basically starting to run things. Manager left, and people are like, I don't really know who's managing the building. And you've got an out-of-state ownership group that is allegedly, they're a bunch of slumlords. They're running some affordable housing. Sometimes affordable housing doesn't necessarily have, toilets at work or running water or any of that stuff. And sometimes there's, prison gang from Venezuela just sauntering around. Yeah. Denver, a sanctuary city that's just west of Aurora, has received more migrants per capita than any city in the country, most of them from Venezuela. More than 40,000 illegals have arrived since December of 2022. That's a huge influx into not a huge city, not a massive North American city. It's a good-sized city, but it's not huge. So pound for pound, big impact. And the biggest impact is financially. when you've already got a budget that's upside down that, due to a number of different taxes, you don't have enough money to cover all your bills. And now because you virtue signaled that you're a sanctuary city and, you're going to help everybody out. That's really costing you. And you've committed the taxpayers to it costing them as well. All right, guys, need to pony up another 100 million. Got to get some more housing. The Post asked Governor Polis's office if he intends to backtrack its statement, giving the piles of evidence of Tren de Aragua takeover, to which Weirman said the governor really hopes that the city council members in charge stop trashing their own city when they are supposed to keep it safe. Well, I don't think it was their intent to trash it. I think they are identifying an issue which they said they did not want from the beginning. Aurora, Colorado basically said ixnay to the newcomers. We don't want them. We can't afford them. This is not our problem. But, there's a lack of housing throughout the Denver metropolitan area. And as a result, if you've got cheap housing in Aurora, which is next door, then they're going to go there. I mean, it's a money issue, right? It's not like they're just, specifically targeting Aurora. So over the last month, Governor Polis has been in regular contact with the city of Aurora and the Aurora Police Department, and he's done nothing and has offered at state assistance to support their efforts if requested, she said, adding that they expect violent crime to continue to decrease. All right, throwing out these stats while you're in the midst of a pretty major crisis, that doesn't really do anything. Does that really make people in Aurora, Colorado feel better? Oh, hey, those buildings we're at over there within our community, they're being taken over by a prison gang out of Venezuela. But you know what? Since the governor says that, major crime is trending downward from all-time highs, then I guess these buildings that have been taken over by a prison gang out of Venezuela, they're okay then. I mean, does anybody ever think that? No, they look at the issue going on and they're like, holy cow, what in the world are we doing? The Post exposed the gang's takeovers of apartments in Aurora and identified the area's shot caller. So we've got Jose Pachero Carino, who is known as Galeta or Cookie in English. So their leader, alongside his fellow gangsters, brutally beat a man at an apartment complex in Aurora. He was later arrested and then let go on bail. That's excellent. That's great. During the assault, a witness said Pacheco Carino and his accomplices were part of a gang that steals from Walmart and blamed they ran the apartment, according to an affidavit obtained by the Post. One witness said that she was afraid to talk much because of the dangerous people living in the complex. That's probably where I'd be. You want to be that one guy blabbing about a prison gang from Venezuela who lives in your apartment complex? Probably not. Get that little knock, knock, knock on your door late at night. Hey, stop talking. You're riling up the natives. The apartment investor told the Post that we lost control of several properties because of the gang has taken over units. They were first hanging out around the property and creating a bad element that's constantly there. And then they started taking over quite a few months ago, and they started taking over vacant units. So that to me is what looked like had happened, is that they let themselves in or broke in to what appeared to be a vacant unit because they maybe thought somebody was hiding there. They were obviously chasing somebody and they were intending on shooting said individual, hence the number of handguns and the dude carrying around what looked like to be some kind of AR-15 assault rifle type implement, right? In July, Pacheco Chirino was arrested for shooting at the same complex where 2 men were wounded. So, I mean, you've got history of violence. You've got arrests going on. You've got video. You've got known vacant units being occupied, taken over. And yet you've got the governor going, yeah, I'll help you out, but I think it's mainly just, figment of your imagination. Good luck with that. How much more does the city of Aurora need to do to actually get some support? I don't know. All the while, Polis has enhanced security policies for Colorado. In recent months, the governor signed legislation to support their new lives in the state by making it easier for them to obtain driver's license, attend school, and other taxpayer-funded assistance. Isn't that great? While the influx of migrants becomes too much, when the influx of migrants becomes too much, Polis made the decision to start busing them to New York City in 2023 through a program that since ended. Yeah. At one point in time, that second half of 2023, that is when you saw the enormous numbers of illegals just absolutely skyrocket. And since then, you've had like an 85% reduction in the number of illegals through at least the Texas southern border, throughout the Texas end. And, you know, Sleepy Joe's trying to take credit through his executive order. That had nothing to do with anything. What happened is Texas basically shut it down. They shut their border down. And then Mexico started helping out. And then you've had this notion where even Panama is trying to basically interrupt the number of people going through the Darien Gap. So there's all these things in place right now that are happening. None of it has to do with what Sleepy Joe is trying to do, which is basically just reenact some of the stuff that Trump already had in place. All he had to do was just leave things in place. Instead, Sleepy Joe just enacted executive order after executive order, stopped building the wall and just went down all these other roads that he didn't need to. And that the border czar, Kamala Harris, didn't need to. But I don't know if she knows, that any of this is even going on, even though she is the southern border czar or some reasonable facsimile thereof. Yeah, right. It's been a nightmare, and I can't wait to get out of here. Apartment resident Cindy told Fox Denver as she moved out of the building with her husband. We talked about them yesterday. I mean, these people leave, and then the minute that they leave, somebody else is moving in because you know what? Cheap is cheap, and money talks. And if you don't have money and you need a place, this is it. You just deal with the gangs. You just hunker down and do what you got to do. Gangs inhabiting complexes is not a new thing. It happens all the time, especially when the criminal element realizes, oh, okay, yeah, we got something good going on here. Let's go. And they just make it happen, and they fight with local law enforcement and they do their thing. The problem here is you've got this, open southern border that we know these folks have come across. And they're getting set up, and they're being physically and financially set up by taxpayers' dollars. And then they go ahead and take over complexes, and then the ownership is like, they took over. And then the governor's, this is imaginary. This is mainly a figment of the imagination of the mayor of the city of Aurora. Okay. All right. So maybe when we have a murder take place at one of these apartment complexes by Tren de Aragua, maybe just then it'll go from, myth or somebody's imagination to, hey, that help they've been asking for. Okay. Yeah. Maybe we need to do that. Maybe our failed social experiment has gone sideways on us, and now we need to hop to. We need to get after this. Kind of like Seattle police did when Chop Chaz went sideways and 2 black kids got murdered and, gave up a police station, and some women were physically assaulted. Yeah, it was just a swell time, just like is going on in Aurora. And it's being dismissed as somebody's imagining. They're imagining this. What about the video? Yeah, still just imagination. Make it go away. That's what we got going on. All right. That's it for me on this one. Thanks so much for being here. I'll catch up with you in the next episode. Bye for now.